Our guest has 21 years of experience as a cross country track coach. He has written 5 walking themed books and completed a virtual walk around the entire perimeter of the United States, a journey that took 16 years. Today, he's here to share how to walk your way to better health. Please welcome Frank Ring. Frank, good evening to you.
Good evening, Daniel. How are you this evening?
Wonderful.
Good, good.
The thing that I want to understand is what was happening in the moments just before you made that decision to spend 16 years walking around the United States.
It's a really interesting story. As you mentioned, I was cross country coach and a track coach. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. And I had one of the magazines. I think it was Run. It wasn't Runner's World. It was one of the other magazines. In it, there was a story about two college students. They had just graduated, and they decided to run across the United States. And they wanted to do it differently because they said, look, I guess it was one night in their dorm. Maybe they had a few drinks too many. And they said, people have run the United States. What if we did it, but didn't rely on a support team, just carried on our backs whatever we needed and relied on the kindness of strangers to put us up for the night? Which when I read that, I thought that was fascinating. They had a website with a blog post. This was around 2003 that I read it. And I found it fascinating. I'd say I'm a school teacher, and during my preps, I would sit and read their blogs of where they stayed that night. Um, People were amazing. What I found was like someone would put them up for the night, and then the next night they'd call ahead if they had like these guys were running about 30 miles a day. Someone 30 miles away, they knew they'd call them and say, "Hey, can you put these guys up for the night? They're doing this incredible thing." And they would be at the host house. The host would like sometimes pick them up on the road, take them to the house and say, okay, this refrigerator's stocked. I've got to run back to work. When I get home tonight, I'm taking you for a night on our town because they ran through mostly rural areas. I found that fascinating. And I spent probably a good month finally catching up to where they were. They made it across the United States from New Jersey, where I live, to Oregon. And I thought, wow, if I had the time, would I do that? And the answer was absolutely not. It sounded very difficult how tough it was on their body, and they actually had a baby stroller to carry their equipment. But they kept true to not paying for housing. They stayed true to relying on strangers. Of the whole trip, it was I think 4 months. They spent 12 nights outdoors. So the other times, people were just so generous. That's what I found really amazing about their run. And I thought, okay, I wouldn't do that. But I was a runner at the time, a coach, and I ran just to keep in shape. I did a few road races. And I thought, all right, I have running logs. I know 22 miles from where I live to where I teach, I know what that is. But what's beyond? What if I ran another 22 the next week and another 22? Where is it on a map? And I came up with the grand plan of virtual run from Palisades Park, New Jersey, where I grew up and where I teach, down to Key West, Florida. The reason I chose that destination is Route 1 comes over the George Washington Bridge, runs through Palisades Park, and goes to Key West. Before all the major highways were built, that's how you got to Florida. My grandfather, when I was a kid, told me about a trip he took to Florida. And he said, oh, we had to take Route 1 because the turnpike wasn't built yet. So I thought, okay, I'll do that. And I said, I can make this fun because I teach Photoshop. And I thought, well, what if I put this run on a map and then Photoshop myself in different locations along the way? And I just would goof on my students and say, hey, I'm running to Florida. Here it is. I put a big sign up, Mr. Ring's virtual run, Palisades Park to Key West, Florida. And that's how it started. It started as a way to entertain myself and to goof on my students.
So, on the journey, did you actually have to do the distance? How
Uh,
did you
okay,
do
so
that?
the standard I set was I only counted the miles that I ran on a training run or in a road race. So if every day I went out after cross, whatever I ran with the kids during practice didn't count. Not that I did a lot of running with them, But then after practice, if I said, all right, I'm going to take a 4 mile run, that went in my logbook, that went on the map. So I
Wow.
just plotted it going all the way down the East Coast. And now this was, let's see, 2004 I started it. When I started teaching in 1998, we didn't even have the internet yet at our school.
Mm.
So, that was, so it was all very, it was only a few years old, but it was very new to me how what was out on the internet and how primitive things looked then compared to now. And I started just Google. I don't even think I was using Google at the time. It was just whatever search engine, I probably Netscape, to find images. Yeah. I see you
Go
laughing.
straight back to school.
And I found images of, let's say, a car approaching, and people took pictures of the strangest things, like welcome to, North Carolina. And people were at the North Carolina sign waving. So I photoshopped myself from the back, as if I was running, in that image. So what I did is I had a student of mine, and the camera we had was so slow. So I couldn't even actually run. I had to pretend to be in the pose because the digital camera back then was so slow.
About
So
2 megapixels.
it was wild. So I, so I'm just laughing thinking about this. I had a number of different poses that I had. Then I cut myself out, and then I put myself in different locations on this run. So the original intent was to get to Key West, Florida, and eventually myself go to Key West and be there, at the end point. There's this big, landmark there that is a famous. People take pictures with it all the time. So when I did that run, it took me a while because in the 2 years have a young son. I had a young son. I took 2 years off. I wasn't even doing any training. I mean, I really just, life was consumed with being working full time and extra jobs and raising my son. But I finally did that run, and when I got to the end of it, I thought I enjoyed this. This was fun. It kept me motivated when I did get back into it to say, hey, I got to get out and run today. So I'm like, well, where do I go next? And I thought, well, the perimeter of the United States, and that's what I kept doing, for 16 for a total of 16 years. I'm persistent, that's for sure.
Absolutely. So, over 16 years, what does that average out to a day? Like, if you did the
Oh,
numbers,
oh,
how much
per
a
day,
day?
it was probably so minuscule. In fact, when I look at the 16, well, it's 16 years, but there were 2 years I took off, and then I had injuries and all of that stuff, and but
Yeah,
really didn't
it's
even.
interesting because you gotta factor in on a virtual run the injuries.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. Oh,
interesting in and of itself.
I was hurt quite a bit. Well, the the hurting getting hurt quite a bit leads me probably to why we're speaking to each other today. But so I was hurt quite a lot running, and like I said, I did it to keep in shape. I wasn't like I know people who are serious runners who like insist every day they have to go out and put so many miles. I ran when I felt like, hey, I need to keep in shape. I never liked running. I mean, honestly, I every time I ran, I started a training run. That's all I did, and I was not running fast. I was so winded. I'm like, why does this feel like the first time I ever started running?
Mm.
Like if every day felt like the first day. I never got over that, and I was in reasonably good shape. I was not overweight or anything, and but I did it to stay in shape. Of course, never looking at my logbooks or anything to realize how often I was hurt. Knee bothered me. I had a shin injury that really the pain lasted for about 2 years on and off. So I finally had such a terrible back injury, herniated disc, that in 2000, that was 15, I stopped everything. It was so bad. I was actually out of work for 4 months because of the damage I did running, overdoing some lifting I was doing at the time, and then the physical therapy I was doing. The physical therapy group, they looked at me as an insurance card, I think, because they gave me every test under the sun. And then whenever I'd say, it still bothers me, I said, I feel okay when I leave here. Then, oh, no, no, it's fine. Keep coming back. Keep coming back. The only test they didn't give me was an MRI, which would have revealed I had a severely herniated disc, which an orthopedic doctor pointed out to me. This was now 2016. And he said, hey, you got to stop running because if this doesn't clear up, I've got to operate on you. So uh, a disc injury from running ended my running career, quote air quotes there, and I needed to do something else because it was a crazy time in my life. The disc injury put me out of work, and basically, I spent just months on the floor of my house on my right side with a pillow between my legs. It's the only place I could find relief. And I'm thinking, I don't know, about 52 years old at the time, I think 53. Is this my life here of not being active at all? Because I mean, it hurt to sit. Thinking about going out on a social occasion. I mean, it was all I could do to get to work, and then finally I couldn't even do that. So I had to regroup after during that time, right? So I'm out of work. I'm in pain. My mom had pancreatic cancer. She was slowly dying. So I mean, it was a mess of a year. So, she had passed in August, I get back to school in September, and I said, "I am never going to be that hurt again where I'm limited." I mean, as a young man, I was limited. So that's when I started walking just to get back in shape again. The idea was, well, I'll get back in shape and I'll start running, but then as I started walking, I realized, "Wait a minute. I like this." I never, like I talked to you about, I never really liked the running. I did it for a purpose, which was to stay in shape. When I get out of my walks, it was first for the physical to get back in shape, but then I realized what it was doing to my mindset. I started feeling a lot better. I went from like a slight depression during all that time to, hey, this is really nice out here. I'm enjoying something. I'm enjoying this thing.
Mhm.
And then I started to, much like that whole virtual run thing, I continued it during this time because now I picked it up again, and now my miles were done walking. So sometimes I refer to it as my virtual walk run around the United States, or run walk, because the running came first and then the walk. But I realized that walking really was doing something so positive for me. I was able to listen to podcasts. I was able to listen to um, anything like personal development CD. I actually did have an iPad at the time, so an iPod. So I was personal development speakers, um, just my own thoughts, music, stuff that I couldn't do when I was running. When you're running, you're huffing and puffing, and if you do have a good flow in running, you don't want to stop it because you have a good idea. Even though I never had any good ideas when I was running. When I was walking, all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, I never thought about this thing before. Or I never thought about that before. And that's how that's my long-winded journey into from running into walking, and what I've developed with walking since that time. Since 16 into 2017 was really the start of the idea of I could do something with this walking.
Mhm. There's so much to unpack
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
Frank, and
I'm sorry, I really went off on that.
and it's exciting because there's so many life examples in there. And the first one that I'm thinking about on your journey is the same journey that we take clients on as coaches. And so in a coaching journey, there's 5 phases. The first one is to get clarity. You've
Okay.
got to get clear on where you want to go.
Mm,
And you had your original plan, but you also knew your starting point. And like the boys that ran across the country, they had an end goal, but
mm,
then they had to constantly figure out, well, where are we starting from? And figure out that we're going to have these rules, we're going to have these values, we're going to have this pram, and we're going to take this stuff with us, this equipment, and then we're going to stop along the way. So we call this the gap analysis. That's the first part of coaching. The second part is brainstorming. And here you're coming up with all these new ideas. How do I use this 2 megapixel camera?
mhm,
How
yeah,
do I use Photoshop to make it actually look like I'm in these different places? Also, figuring out how do you do the numbers? How do you run? You're not going to calculate the time teaching school, but you're going to calculate based on the runs that you're doing. The third phase of coaching is brainstorming. Sorry, we start to put the plan together. Okay, so these are all my wonderful ideas. There's some whoppers in there, there's some crazy ones, but we take those plans and we put them into place. The fourth stage is the one that I want to focus on because this is the one that most people don't like to focus on. I think Around the world, we like to be optimistic. We like to think that if I set a goal, I automatically achieve the goal. Just like if the sun comes up in the east and sets in the west, I should set and achieve a goal without any problems. And that's the problem with optimism. We get drunk on optimism. I get so excited about my idea, nothing could possibly go wrong. But here on a virtual walk,
Mm.
people think, a virtual walk? How could you even get hurt? Well, it's a blend, it's a hybrid of actually doing the walking, doing the running,
Mm.
tracking it virtually. And here you are, injuries, herniated disc, mother dying of pancreatic cancer. All of these things that popped up on your journey that you probably hadn't anticipated at the very start.
Mhm. Oh, not at all. Not that.
And this is where people come unstuck. And I don't know if you've used the technology called Strava. Strava is what runners use to track their runs, their bike rides. They analyze the data of 800,000 users. And what they discovered that 98% of users or people who are doing workouts quit within 14 days.
Mm.
And so Strava calls January 14th Quitters Day.
Mm.
And that's because all these problems, all these challenges, all these obstacles, they never anticipated. So they get in, they have their bit of beginner's luck at the start, and then shit hits the fan,
Mm. Mm.
like Forrest Gump when he's running.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you look at those challenges that you had over that 16-year journey, what were some of the ones that you had never thought that you would come up against?
Uh, the challenge, well, the injuries I didn't think would be a factor, but the challenges, fatherhood, of how much time uh, I'd have to that I not have to I spent with my son in raising him, and how it l- it- I didn't put fitness as a priority during that time because I put him as a priority,
Mhm.
which is important. So, the run took a backseat. Um, it's interesting. At one point, when I had started the run again, I had changed classrooms. And in my classroom, I had maps all over the place. And when I went to the new classroom, I was still doing the run, but I was keeping track on now Google Earth with the little pins every month, I'd put in. And my superintendent of schools came in, and he said, he first thing looked up, he said, "Hey, where's your maps?" And I'm like, "Wow, there's someone." None of my students who did this whole thing to goof on them said anything, but the superintendent came in. He goes, "I used to love coming into your room and see your maps. Where are they?" So that input, that gave me the impetus to track it publicly again, because for the
Mhm.
longest time, I had tracked it publicly. Then I went more just for my own thing, but then I, back public again in front of my students, and doing the Photoshop work again and all of that stuff. Um, and then it was a long term. When I was hurt, one of my thoughts was, "How am I going to do this? How am I going to finish this run here?" Um, and I'll give you the last challenge, um, was COVID. And that COVID put a just a downer on the whole thing, in that in September of 2019, no, I'm sorry, 2019, one of my students, Dominic, I'll never forget him. He said, "Hey, Mr. Ring, are you going to finish this thing by the time I graduate in June?" So graduation time. And I calculated that if I did 100 miles a month, I could do it. So that was my goal for that last Dominic's senior year, and I was on track. And then COVID hit. The schools closed up in person in March, and it just was just a depressing time trying to teach on the internet, and just it was dreary. I mean, it's all I could describe, a dreary time. That I kept tracks of the walks I was doing. I always did that, but I never transferred what I did to the maps and to this run. And it got to that July of that year, of that 2020, and I said, "Where am I in this run? Let me, like, what am I doing with this thing?" And I would have finished on graduation day, June 21st of that year. And my plan was the last 3 miles to come from about 4 miles from the George Washington Bridge through the back streets, because the highway's too dangerous, to the school. It's one of our training cross country runs. And I would have invited anyone who wanted to, hey, I did this long thing. Who wants to finish this? We'll go up, we'll start at the bridge, we'll walk to the school, and there's my completed journey. And COVID ruined the whole thing. So that was that was a I still get so upset about that, how it ended so terribly.
Mhm. This is what I see is that when we're planning, oftentimes we don't want to look out for those dangers. We don't want to look out for those obstacles. But I think the blessing of COVID is we now understand that these things can be a reality,
Mhm.
and that the next time we go on a journey, we've got to factor it in.
Yeah.
Well, there's
Yeah.
always a chance of another lockdown,
Mm.
but if at least we consider it, we can have our plan B in there and we
Mhm.
can have a walk around.
Yeah.
One thing that you mentioned before was about fatherhood. And many people say, well, when we have kids, they're just going to integrate with our life and they're not going to impact us in any ways. Bullshit.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
I've got two children. My daughter's 13 and my son's 8. And I was sleep deprived for 10 years.
Oh, that
Sleep
yeah,
deprived. They come in
absolutely.
when they want to come in. They want to disturb. They're sick when you're healthy. You catch it, and then it spreads around the house. Doesn't matter how
Mhm.
fit and healthy you are. Some of those
Mhm.
things you just can't escape.
Yeah.
And I realized that with my health and fitness during that period of time, I was less disciplined. And it wasn't that I'm not a disciplined person. It was the situation had changed and I didn't know how to navigate the new
Mm.
situation.
Yeah.
So my wife, she's all of 45 kilos, my children are little, and they want to order these big meals.
Mm.
And so at the end of the meal, somebody's got to finish it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't finish it, you carry the guilt. So you think,
Mm.
well, I may as well eat the food because I don't want to waste the money.
Mhm.
And then it becomes habitual that dad's going to finish everything.
Mhm.
And then your dad eats, eats, eats. And then the kids say, oh, dad, you've got fat. Yeah, well, you don't eat your stuff, and now you're forcing me to eat it. And mum says, finish the food. You got to navigate that. And then the kids need time.
Mm.
The time that I
Yes.
used to spend in sports when I was younger, I could go and train all weekend.
Mm.
I could train Saturday, Sunday. I could come home after work, train Monday to Friday. But kids need your time and attention. They need to be fed. They need to be washed. They need their bums wiped. They need clothes washed. They've got to go to different places.
Mm.
And it does change. We're not saying changes a negative. There's so many positive things, but you got to learn to navigate that. Can't always run or play golf when you want to play. We've got to
No, that
factor in that.
that yeah, that's for sure. Absolutely.
I take my son and I. We went mountain climbing on the weekend. So he's 8, and it's the first time. And for me, I was going up that hill, going, "Oh my gosh, I have muscles in my body that I haven't felt for 13 years." And he's going up really fast, and nothing's burning in his legs. The air's going in and out of his lungs that it should, but mine are burning. And I said,
Mm.
"Mate, you got to slow down." And Dad can't keep
Mm.
up. And he's like, we'll just go further." So we're around about halfway into a 3.3 kilometer mountain climb.
Mhm.
And I said to him, I said, "This is as far as I can go." I said, "Because I got to go down." And he said, "Dad, going up a mountain is like walking with one rock in your hand." I said, "Okay." And he said, "But going down is like two rocks in your hand."
Mm.
And I went, "Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking about."
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
See, and the virtual world's also dangerous.
Mm. Yeah. And so many things had come up.
So many
Um,
things.
but it was overall that experience was so much fun. And what I the part of it that up until the COVID part, once I switched over to the walking part, like I said, my mileage zoom. I actually walked more miles than I ran, even though it takes longer, because I just enjoyed it so much more. I planned different walks, different neighborhoods in my area where I was going to. I found some really great spots, my walking spots, I call them. I had my different routes, and I'd get home from school. Now, my son at this time was older; he was in high school and so busy studying and doing that I had now so much time to devote to walking. And that became my life. I enjoyed it so much. I'm like, I could do something with this to share it with the world. And I wrote a book about it because I was looking for walking books that I didn't like them. They were too much in the weeds. Like y- uh, as a high school teacher, kids have like this attention span. You got to get to the point of the lesson and let them work on it. And that's I wrote a book that was pretty much the same way. Uh, you know, get right to the point, follow what written out for you here, and you'll one become a walker, and you'll enjoy the process in the meantime.
What what don't you like about running? I've got a list a mile long of what I don't like about
Uh,
running.
like I well, the first thing was I just never that runner's high that people talk about. I maybe once in my life I've ever achieved that where I finish. I'm like, oh, what a great run. Um, it just I just found it not. I couldn't think. Meaning, I was huffing and puffing so much, or saying, what am I doing here?" Almost, but I c I couldn't think, or if I had any thoughts, they just were fleeting because of the nature of that how much effort is exerted. Um,
Mm.
when I started comparing it to walking, when I started walking, it was like, "Ooh, this is like a whole new world opening up to me here," as far as, um, getting my mind wrapped around different problems I had in life, or s lessons I was teaching at school, business ideas. As a school teacher, I'm like, I need to make some extra money on the side. What can I do that, the whole I'm like, I like doing this. People tell you, like, do what you like to do. Well, maybe I can do something with this. And that's where the Walking for Health and Fitness books and everything I've done with that came about. Most of it written, or at least the ideas or outlines done while I was walking.
I had done water sports most of my life, so I
Mhm.
liked swimming.
Yeah.
I loved to surf, and I love water skiing and wakeboarding.
Mm,
And in those sports, you don't tend to drip sweat.
mm.
But running, I've run
Oh,
before,
yeah.
and I don't like to sweat.
Mm,
And I hate when I go for a walk down near the river and the running pack comes along
mm.
and their sweat flicks on me and it stinks.
Oh,
I'm like, I don't want to run. I hate the impact.
Mm,
I was doing cross country at school and I always had problems with my knees and my hips.
mhm, yep,
My knees would collapse, my hips would hurt, my back would hurt.
yeah,
And there was nothing that I really liked about it. I
right.
didn't like the training, I didn't like the stretching.
Mm,
And and for me, it's just that I was in the gym last night and there was 3 young guys who are at high school and, somebody hasn't taught them about deodorant yet. And I went in there and it absolutely reeked of BO and I was gagging it. The air's so thick. Ah. And I was like, "That's why I don't like to run. I don't wanna stink." But I do like to walk.
Yeah, yeah. So like I said, so I got into the walking. It changed a lot of things in my life, and my outlook on life changed from physically. I was healthier. I've had one injury with when from walking, and actually I've done the same thing twice. Once a few years ago, I stepped in a pile of leaves in the roadway because just too lazy to step over them. I don't know what I
Better than a
was
pile of
thinking.
shit, hey?
No, no, it was
No.
a branch. I rolled my ankle really badly, and, like, that was just on my own stupidity. Uh, and then just last week, the same thing happened. I'm out on my walk and pile of leaves, and I was distracted by something. Something caught my eye, and next thing you know, I'm on the ground. So, for the most part, if you watch your step, that's the only injury is walking. That is it. So if I watched my step, I would have been fine in both instances. But and like I said, so since 2017, I've been full time walking. This is 2025, 8 years. There we go. I could do the math. I've not been injured. It's been wonderful. My back has been healthy,
Mhm.
um, my knees healthy, the shin pain that I had healthy. So, it's just been it's a wonder drug in a sense, because
Mhm.
it's a cure all for so many things. Um,
Mhm.
you know, people talk about the slight depression that it helps them through. It helps them through anxiety. It helped me through my after grieving my mom and my back injury totally helped me through that. So that's why I wrote about it. Um, that's why I do what I do. I preach it. I have a web podcast about it. So it's it was just more recently. I mean, to really get down to it, I had prostate cancer, and after the diagnosis, it was a few months before treatment. I kept walking. I increased my walking to be in good shape for what I was going to go through in the treatment. Along with body weight exercises, and it really it's what helped my mindset through it. I still had difficulty through the two treatments. One was hormone the hormone suppression therapy. They ADT. They knock down the testosterone, stop the cancer growth, and then radiation therapy kills the tumors in the prostate. So the walking at least kind of gave me a sense of, all right, I've had things to think about, but it keeps me in a good mindset. And
Mm.
then I went through the treatment. But even knowing what I know, um, I kind of fell. I guess it's that expression. I don't like the expression, but they call it the fog of war. Like when you're within the battle, you don't really see the whole clear picture. And when I was in this, the hormone treatment, I thought, I'll be fine with this. They told me there'd be some side effects, fatigue and weight gain and, muscle loss. And like, that's not going to happen to me. I'm active. And it happened to me. It happened to me because I kind of got down on myself because I was so tired all the time. So when I was tired, I should get out there. I don't feel like, initially I was lifting weights just to maintain the muscle, but then I hurt my shoulder lifting weights. So now I'm like, all right, I can't do that because I tried to do too much too soon. I hadn't been lifting weights. I preach body weight exercises, and I went against, even though I was still doing some of that, I went against that. So in the fog of war, in the fog of this treatment, I really wasn't. I was eating. Well, you talked about finishing the meals. I'd always been a pretty disciplined eater, but I could always eat whatever I wanted because I was active. I'd always been in my reasonable weight. I never felt overweight. All of a sudden, my weight just ballooned. Like I had put on in a short amount of time from the end of May into the August, like almost 18 pounds, which was like, and I mean, I could, from having a controlled very little appetite. I mean, I would eat and I'll be fine. All of a sudden, I'd eat something. I'm like, I am still hungry. I could eat, if I went in for a handful of peanuts, it was 10 handful of peanuts, like just to give you an example. And so I know all this stuff.
You must have the same problem with your hand as I do.
Yeah. Yes, yes. I always need something in there. So when I came out of, I finished radiation treatment October 23rd, and I'm doing well. I feel great. Well, initially I felt awful um, because, like I said, I'm like, what am I doing here? I knew all this stuff, and then finally I got to the point within the treatment, probably sometime in the summer. I said, you know what? Let me try not to get too down on myself. When I get through this and I start feeling better, then I'll do the steps I need to do to lose the weight. I'll start watching my calories. I get on a disciplined diet. I'll do intermittent fasting, stuff I had done in the past, and I'll start working out again. And that's where I am now. But I'm thinking if I had just done a fraction of that during the treatment, I would not be in the I would not be like kind of chasing it now, of now I got to lose all this weight, and the effects of the drug are still in me. So it probably won't be a few more months before I can actually show big progress that I can lose the 18 pounds that I want to lose. So my point going forward for myself is I want to just help other men who are facing prostate cancer to say, okay, your body's going to change. Let's start working on this now. Even with these small steps, small fitness steps but consistently done. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to consistently do them. The diet, you need to get more disciplined with your diet and that weight's going to come on quick. About like 2 weeks into it, I had made a posting on my Facebook page, and some guy, one of my regulars who posts on there said, "Hey, how's the spare tire?" And I thought, "What the hell does that mean?" Which I knew what a spare tire was, and about a month later, I was down at the Jersey Shore with my family at the beach, and I looked down at my gut, and I'm like, "I never had a gut before." If the year before at the beach, my sister was like, "Wow, you're 61 years old and you still have like a six-pack ab." It was just gone. So my focus has been on my health, and then now how can I turn this into helping other men who are going through, um, through either they've just found out they had it, and where the mind goes from that diagnosis when you hear the word cancer, to okay, let's get your health routine. Let's create a health routine, not only physically but the nutritionally, and also the mindset things you could do for mindset. So
Mm.
um, I'm trying to turn a negative that happened to me into a positive.
Mm. And it does change fast, doesn't it?
Oh,
It
oh,
changes
yeah.
so fast, the direction.
Yeah, it changes so quickly. Just, you know, I th well, first off, for any men out there, and for the women, for the men you love, please tell them to get a PSA test. Get to know that baseline of where your prostate health is. That's just an indicator, and then there are other tests beyond that if those levels get elevated. But lost my train of thought there.
It's the speed that it changes.
Yeah, the speed that it changes, and I tried to prepare myself for the which I knew there would be changes, but I just yeah, had no idea from the end of May till the middle of July, my birthday, where I was like, "Whoa, what this happened so fast," and the diagnosis. So it's for anyone facing it, it's just at least talking to someone who has gone through it might be just all the help initially that you need to alleviate fear and what the journey ahead of what that is going to be like.
Mm. In my personal life, I call it battle ready.
Battle ready.
And
Okay.
I always want to have good foundations and
Hmm.
solid foundations in place for the future because I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I'd like to be able to
Yes.
predict it.
Right. Mm.
But also, I believe that there's forces that are more powerful than us that direct things in life that
Mm.
we can't quite explain.
Mm.
So I like to be prepared to be battle ready. If I was called into a fight, am I ready to fight? Am I called in to walk 10 miles? Can I walk it? And I want to be strong in my body because I know even 6 months ago when I had a problem with my back, just how quickly things changed. I'd never had a severe back injury. And
Mm.
and in my 40s, I decided that I would do body weight exercises because
Mm.
I didn't want to be injured. That was the goal. Okay,
Mm.
you've just done all of this wakeboarding throughout your life and you've had a couple of knee reconstructions, broken noses, torn ligaments, but your body's still pretty healthy. Let's make sure that the body's healthy for another 40 years.
Yes.
So I said to my personal trainer, when you train me, don't push me beyond my limits. Because if I wake up tomorrow and I'm hobbling around, I'm going to fire you immediately.
Mm.
I don't want to feel like that. I want to be able to do this day in, day out. And I had gone on that path. I'd also just done the body weight exercises and the resistance bands. And my body changed shape and I was okay with that. But then when something happened with my back that I couldn't explain and I couldn't figure out, the weight went on really quickly. I couldn't walk. I couldn't stretch. I couldn't do the body weight exercises.
Mm.
And now I'm in a territory that I've never been in. And the weight was a problem because I'd been very active, a couple of hours in the gym,
Mm.
but you stop going to the gym, but your stomach hasn't changed size.
Hmm.
The amount that you can put down your gullet doesn't change. It
Exactly.
still goes in, but now you're
Exactly.
sedentary.
Mm.
And I think for a lot of men, we've got to be battle ready. We've got to have those solid foundations so that if there's a particular diagnosis that we get along the way, at least there's good foundations there.
Mm. Yeah.
Just like the
Ye-
spare tire on the car, you want to check that it's actually attached. You
Mm.
want to check that it's actually got some air in it.
Yeah.
You want to
Exactly.
check that it hasn't gone brittle,
Mm.
and you want to be ready.
It's interesting you talked about your coach, you're telling your coach, "Don't push me beyond my limits." When I first started coaching cross country, I was with, my mentor, Frank Donahue. He's in the State Hall of Fame as a cross country coach, and we're at a race, and he was talking to another coach. So this other coach was, he had been a football coach for years and then retired, stopped coaching football and went to cross country, 2 totally same season, different sports, and he was kind of hobbling around, and Frank had said to him, "Hey, what's going on with you?" He said, and he this guy was probably in his mid 50s at the time, and he said, "You know, Frank, all the years I coached, we had this motto, no pain, no gain." He said, "And now I'm running road races, and I'm hobbling here, and I'm thinking, did I did I ruin my athletes with that motto of no pain, no gain? Because we need our bodies, like just like you said, for the rest of your lives." And that kind of factored into my walking thing. So my uncle, this is my mother's sister's husband. His dad lived to about 97 years old, but which was wonderful. Always great peace of mind that he had. But the thing that stood out to me, he was always a walker. And this is going back from when I was a kid in the 70s. You didn't see anybody walking for everybody drove everywhere. And I would see him walking, like, wow, that's interesting. I don't ever see anybody else walking. All like I would see him in so many different places that when I started driving, I would say, "Hey, Mr. Ostuni, you need a ride up the hill?" Nope. And he'd always, he had his hand in a certain way. It was great. Oh, I got to get my walk in. And he owned a building that he would go to twice a week to clean up around the building. And the building was 6 miles from his house. I'm sorry, the building was 4 miles from his house. So he'd get an 8 mile walk in a few times a week and then walk to the market. And so he became my, like, that's my shining star. I want to be 97 years old, still walking up the hill and
That's the
refusing a
real
ride
flex.
and refusing a ride. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you want.
Yeah.
The You want to outlive them all. That's the
Yeah.
greatest revenge. I'm gonna have
outlive,
revenge on all of those
outlive
people. I'm
them
gonna
and
outlive you all.
outlive them and feel good doing it, being at being that age and feeling vibrant and alive and minimizing the pain that is in you and that could come if you don't take care of yourself throughout your younger years.
I started coaching wakeboarding at age 16,
Okay.
and what I realized was that the people that I was coaching didn't want to be world champions. They just wanted to have fun,
Mm,
and they just
yeah.
wanted to be a little bit better.
Mm,
And I understood that. And when I looked at the other coaches, all they wanted people to do was to go big. And that was
mm,
their whole strategy. You got to cut
mm,
harder. You got to go bigger. And everybody who followed their advice got injured and they stopped doing
yeah.
the sport.
Right.
And I looked at it and I said to people, if you want to have fun, just work on the foundations. Learn how to ride naturally. Learn how to ride switch. Learn to do a 180 this way. Learn to do a 180 that way. And just keep building on those foundations. And the people that I coached, they are still wakeboarding now into their 40s and 50s and they're still having fun.
Yeah.
Where the other
Yeah.
people who just wanted to go out and go big and do the big flips and the big tricks in the first couple of months,
Hmm.
they all busted their ankles, they busted their shoulders, they busted their knees, they busted their backs, and they can't go back on the water ever again.
Mm, yeah.
So they
Sad.
lost the fun. And
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
we've got to remember this as coaches, we will come across the 1%,
Mm,
and they want to be pushed and they want to explore more risk. And that's okay.
mm,
They're the people who want to go to the Olympics. I went to the extreme games and I competed there and I was willing to put everything on the line to get there.
mm,
But I knew I only had a short window to do it.
right.
But there was people who went further and I looked at that and went, I don't want to make all of those sacrifices.
Mm,
I don't want
yeah.
to be knocking on people's door and asking, can I sleep on your floor? I want to stay in the five-star hotel.
Nice. Yeah.
I don't want to push the trolley. I want to sit in business class. I want to something different.
Mm,
But we've got to figure out what's right for us.
yeah.
And there's you don't always have to go big. It's like with business. A high performer doubles their income every 7 years.
Mm,
The average person in the population doubles their income every 30 years.
wow.
So there's a huge scale here. You don't have to be up in that top 10% all the time. You
Right.
can be down here and still live a wonderful life.
Mm,
But you got to, in a way, you got to choose your pain. But you don't want to hurt yourself. Like a
right.
business person, you don't want to be so stressed that you can't come back to work the next day.
Right. Right.
You don't
Yeah.
want to say so late up doing all the work tonight that you can't get out of bed in the morning.
Mm,
You don't want to use all that anger in the first week of the quarter and have none of that anger left to get results for the final week of the quarter.
right.
It's a balance.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Good point.
And the balanced approach, yeah, it covers so many things in that. I look at it. I'll go back to through the through my fitness experience. The balanced approach of how I approach walking and then body weight exercises was that it there were no extremes. I never did crazy. Uh, because I never got hurt walking. Never did crazy. It was a consistent. I put it that way. It's more consistent in in my approach to staying fit, and it was something that I enjoyed. When you enjoy something, you'll just naturally get better at it because you're doing it more and more
And
often.
and intrinsically motivated.
Mm, yeah.
I think for a lot of people, you were mentioning the six pack before. Oftentimes we see all of these weight loss programs coming out in the middle of winter towards the end of summer so you can have a beach
Mm,
body.
mm,
It's extrinsic. It's the hope
yeah.
that I'm going to go out there and the chicks are going to look at me.
Mm,
Well, I think if you're a man in your 40s, the only person who cares about your six pack is you
yeah. Yes.
and the other guys in the gym. The women aren't asking about it. It's like a guy who goes and buys an expensive flash car thinking that he's going to pull all the women.
Right.
The only people who come and talk to them at the gas station are the men.
Yes.
Well, if you want to attract the men, that's going to work.
That's
But
that'll
if
do
you're
it.
going to attract the ladies, you want to do something else.
Mm,
You got to have the right things.
yeah.
When you got your diagnosis
Yeah.
and you started to go through the treatments, what did the treatments look like? And the reason why I ask this is when I had my back problem, I went and had an MRI, and I
Mm.
was never prepared to go into that MRI machine.
Oh.
And I was on the verge of having a panic
Mm,
attack
yeah. Yeah.
because I thought I was just going in to have like an X-ray, and then I'm covered up and I'm put inside this machine, and I had to press the button to get out. I had to run. I ran to the
Oh,
bathroom and I pissed for about 5 minutes nonstop. I was so
yeah.
bloody scared.
The MRI. So when I had gotten, well, I did an MRI for my first MRI I've done two. The first one was for my back, and I made the appointment, and the woman, thank God, the woman on the other end taking the information said, "Oh, so are you claustrophobic?" I'm going, "Not really. Why?" She goes, "Oh, because the MRI tube is very narrow." And I'm like, "Oh, I never gave that a thought." So and thank God she gave me that heads up. It was 3 days later. I think it was about 3 days later I had it. And I spent 3 days at night laying in bed, arms at my side, figuring that's what the position I would be in. And I called it my happy place. And I closed my eyes and I pictured I was at the beach. It was a warm day. The surf was coming in and the sky was enormous. It was big. So I got in there and that MRI machine is loud too, right? Banging and I just said, "I'm in my happy place," and just breathe calmly and slowly, and you'll get through it. So that was in, what was that? 2016, no, 17, I had that. And then for the prostate, same thing, I needed an MRI for that, in that same situation where I had to get myself psyched up to get inside that tube. And, I use the same technique of I'm at the beach, it's a beautiful day, and just block out the sound. And yeah,
Mhm.
that's so it's scary. Sometimes these medical facilities, they don't prepare you,
They don't
or
consider the
they
human aspect.
forget, or they've never gone through it. When I got my diagnosis for cancer, I have great doctors, and where I did the radiation treatment, I mean, the techs and the support staff were wonderful. But basically, I got a folder, and hey, here, watch your diet, and here's a sheet of what you should eat and drink, and Um, I don't even think they gave me an exercise portion of it, and like that was it. And like I said, I know the stuff to stay in shape, but in the fog of war, in the midst of this treatment, that just my mindset was out the window.
Straight back to the reptilian brain,
Yeah, yeah.
just
The
survival.
I call it the ADT drift. So ADT, androgen deprivation therapy. The ADT drift for me was I couldn't really concentrate on anything. And what I mean is I'd sit on my recliner, uh, tired from the treatment, and I like watching television. I like those series, the long series, whether it's Better Call Saul or The Sopranos, going back, showing my age there. And I would look at something and I'm like, "Oh, that looks good. Oh, that looks good. That looks good." And I would never pull the trigger on actually starting to watch it. I'd get on my phone and I start scrolling through YouTube Shorts, and all of a sudden it's an hour later. I'm like, "What the hell? What did I just do for this hour?" I couldn't anything that would be long, um, working on things for my business. A blog post was like, oh man, it was so difficult to do during that period
It's a marathon.
because of that mindset drift. And looking back, I believed if I, had a more of a set routine for myself, I think I would have and recognized that this is going to happen to me. My doctor just, great guy, but he said, oh, you just put some weight on and, your sex drive is going to be gone. And, what the hell does that mean? You know, uh, I got that. And, when you get through this, you'll be okay. Well, you know, yeah, I believe I'll be okay. I would have liked to have thrived during treatment. And so that's my focus going forward.
Mm. My experience with the MRI was I'd gone for an X-ray, and the doctor said, "Oh, you've got a degenerated disc." And I looked at the X-ray, and I'm like, "Well, I'm not medically trained, but I looked at that, and there doesn't look like there's anything different from that one and all the other ones." And I really didn't think that was the problem. So I got the MRI, and I went in there and I got changed into the gown.
Mhm.
And then the lady put on a piece of paper, "This is going to take 30 minutes." And I was like, 30 minutes?
Mm.
Like, that must be a mistake because the X-ray is like 30 seconds. You
Mm.
walk in, bang, gone. And she said 30 minutes. And then I didn't know what the machine looked like, but I could
Mm.
hear something.
Mm.
And I could hear it. I'm like,
You just brought me
what is
back there.
that? Walks me into a room. It's about 10 degrees Celsius. And I look at the machine and it's like a giant donut
Mhm.
with a hole in the middle. And I'm thinking, well, that's not too bad. And then the bed came out, and
Mhm.
the bed came all the way out. And I thought, well, that's different. So I laid on the bed, and then she put a cage over the top of me,
Mhm.
and that locked my arms in. So my arms were now up behind the back of my head. And I thought, okay, I can probably lay like that for a couple of minutes.
Mhm.
And then she said, okay, now here's a button. If you feel panic, just squeeze the button. And then she pressed the button, and I started to go inside the tube. And as my feet were going in, that claustrophobia started to set in. Like the whole world started to crush down in on me. And as I went further in the tube, the tighter the chest became. And it was like all the blood had stopped in the head and had drained out of the head.
Mhm.
I could feel it going down to my
Mhm.
legs, and I wanted to run away. I was so
Mhm.
afraid.
Yes.
And then my head went right inside the tube, and I started to panic. And the first thing that kind of flashed back into my mind, it was like I was coming out of the birth canal. It was like my mum was giving birth
Mhm.
and my head's trying to escape out the hole, the opening, but everything's stuck.
Mhm.
And I was claustrophobic. And literally that outside of the machine was 2 inches away from my nose. It was just a couple of inches away from my ears, and I was
Mhm.
stuck. And I was absolutely vulnerable. There was not a thing that I could do.
Mhm.
Then I thought, I'm stuck inside a pipe. It's like I'm in a collapsed building. How am I going to get out of here?
Mhm.
I started to press on the button. I said, I'm freaking out. I said, I got to go to the bathroom. And I ran out of there.
Mhm.
And then I gave myself at least a 3 minute window on the way to the bathroom and on the way back where I actually thought through the experience. Okay, now I know what the experience is. I'm prepared. It was
Mm.
like I was thrown in the fog of war and nobody ever
Yes.
told me what it was. They didn't tell me what a gun was. They didn't tell me what a mortar rocket was. So as I went to the toilet, I just went, okay, now I know what it is. My feet are going to go in. It's going to get tight. It's going to be uncomfortable. And then I went through, and I reckon for about 15 minutes, I did really well.
Mhm,
And then some negative thoughts started to creep
mhm,
into the mind.
mhm.
And then after about 20 minutes, I started to press that button again. And my arms were now stuck and I couldn't move them. And so she gave me a little massage and she said, "Look, you just got to go for another 5 to 10 minutes." And it was psychologically draining. I wanted to
Oh,
cry. Like, even when
oh,
I think about it now, I think
yeah,
that was the scariest experience I've
yeah.
had as an adult,
Wow. Yes.
and how horrible it must be for children who've never been prepared. Like,
Mm,
I think about my 8-year-old boy, if he had one of those, maybe
yes.
he'll treat it better than I did, but my experience, wow, that was terrible.
Yeah, yeah, like I said, thank God that the woman who took the, intake information had given me that heads up. "Hey,
Mm,
are you claustrophobic?" And then I thought through of what it was, so I you had 3 minutes in the bathroom to prepare as you came out to do it. I had a few days to get myself psyched for it, and, like I said, I've only had to do 2, and, the second time, same thing, I got myself prepared, got through it, and in fact, the second time when they said, "Okay, done," or I heard, like, it was changing, I felt myself moving back out. I opened my eyes for a peek of just how close I was. I would not open my eyes at any time during that thing because I knew if I open my eyes, it's over. And
yeah.
so, so I stayed at my happy place at the beach. It was very nice.
If I had to have one again, I would prefer just to wear a light blocking mask.
Yeah, they should
So I'll
offer
just
that.
put in and
I wear a mask for when I sleep, a light blocking mask. I
mm,
find it the most comforting thing in the world. Yeah, that would be a really great idea. Also, I was able to keep my hands at my side, if I remember right. So I didn't.
mm.
This would have been difficult for sure to keep it up there for. I don't think my
The
shoulders could take it.
there was no blood flow in there, and once that blood flow stops, that pain in the muscles,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then the
no, that's
ligaments were getting
mhm,
tight. That was
incredibly difficult.
that was horrible in itself because one, you feel vulnerable in that position
Mm,
in the tube, but then your body's um, it's like if you've ever had what is it when the muscles go tight? What do they call that? Like
cramped up,
cramp
or yes.
cramp in your calves. Like I've woken up at night with a cramp in my calf,
Oh,
and that's excruciating
yes,
in
it
pain.
is.
And that's what I felt like. The whole upper body was cramped up,
Mm,
and so I was
yes.
now dealing with the pain.
Yeah, yeah. Took your mind off the claustrophobic. Maybe that's their strategy. We'll put you in a
It's
painful position
maternity,
so you won't think about how closed in you are right now.
like MMA, just put him in a painful choke and choke him out and put him to sleep. I I had a colonoscopy years ago as part of a health checkup,
Okay.
and again that was an interesting experience because nobody really prepared me for what was going on, and I went into the hospital, and what was different this time was that there was a bed right up against the wall, and then it had like a handle on the wall,
Okay.
and I looked at that handle, I thought, I wonder what that's for. And so when the nurses came in, they said, "Okay, we're just going to pull your pants down, Mr. Tolson, and we recommend that you hold on to the rail." And then when they put the camera in there, I gripped that rail.
Wait, you were awake
I was awake,
during oh my goodness. No,
awake. So
well, the
I was,
I've had a number of colonoscopies. My mom had, colon cancer years ago. So I started getting colonoscopies probably in my mid-30s, just to
yeah,
keep, just because it's so hereditary, the colon cancer. And they put you out for a while. Like, so when I've gone now, I look forward to it. I'm like, shoot me up. I
taking it.
could really use a nice little rest for 20 minutes, whatever. Oh, I'm like, just make sure get that in there, get the vein in there, make sure you got it good. Okay, make sure you give me the good stuff, and I'll see you in 20 minutes. And it's wonderful.
No, I was wide awake, and I was gripping that rail like I was swinging on the monkey bars.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
And the doctor, it was really funny. He as he started the colonoscopy and he turned his camera on, he spun the camera around or the screen and showed me. He said, "Oh, He said, "You've got a very cute mole, a little freckle on your collar." He's like, "Do you wanna watch?" I'm like, do I have to?" And he said, "I'll take some photos for you." So
So
when I finished, he gave me some photos, and for the rest of the day, we went to the north, and my cousin was driving the car, and I was sitting in the passenger seat. And she rang my wife and spoke to my wife in Taiwanese and said, "Your husband doesn't look so good."
Yeah.
Again, I was traumatized. My face was white, my lips were white, and
Oh my
I'm trying
goodness.
to sit on that seat going, "That was not a wonderful experience."
Wow. So in my list of things to never do, colonoscopy in Taiwan is not that is now on the list of things never to do.
No. I think here in Taiwan, when it comes to sedation, they like to do as little as possible. So
Okay.
I had a couple of um, little things cut out of my arm. I forget what the lipomas cut out, and they'd been there for a few years. And I'd been watching Dr. Pimple Popper, Sandra Lee.
Okay.
She's got a clinic in San Diego, and she loads up all of her patients with some numbing liquid. But when I went to the hospital, they gave me the absolute minimum.
Oh,
So when they're
geez.
cutting through the skin, I'm going, is it normal that I can feel the blade?
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
normal that I can feel it going through all the layers of the skin? They're like,
Oh my
we
god.
might need to give you a little bit more.
Yeah.
So they gave me a little bit more and they're cutting deeper. And I'm going, I can feel the knife. I can feel
Wow.
the blade.
Mm.
And I said, I'm 100 kilos. Everybody else out in the waiting room is probably about 60. You better load me up.
Mm. Mm.
But they don't like to knock you out here. They don't like to give
Okay.
you too much of that
Right,
because
right.
in our medical system, it's a lot of with the Eastern and Western medicine mixed together.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
the very last thing they ever want to do is give you Western medicine.
Oh, okay.
Like to try to treat it naturally for
It's
as much as they can, but
right, right.
getting those lipomas out,
Mm.
ah, I'm not a
Yeah.
wuss, but
Yeah.
that was horrible. Could be better things. Now, in your books, you're talking about walking, and you're also talking about the thinking process. I'd like to explore that because I just spent a week in Korea, and I was walking 10 to 15 kilometers per day, and I
Mhm.
was loving it. My
Mm.
body felt so good. And whenever I went to the metro and I looked at the 250,000 stairs from the bottom to the top, I took them all,
Yeah.
but I felt good. And
Yes.
what I found was that I actually had a lot of peace of mind.
Mm.
My
Yeah.
mind was at ease when I
Yes.
was walking 10 to 15 kilometers.
Yes.
What did you learn on your journey?
Well, on my journey, my mind was at ease, and what I in the research that I've done, it's the neurotransmitters that are within us. You've got serotonin, oxytocin, endorphins, and they just affect the body differently. But mostly, they work on the mind to really give us a nice, steady peace of mind. Um, That's that was immediately what jumped out to me, how much clearer my thinking was. It's almost euphoric, I mean, I never got a runner's high, but I definitely, oftentimes get a walker's high, because it just feels anything that feels so good, leads to you doing more of it, and, that's what I found with all my walking experience.
It is interesting those free drugs.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely free. You watch television or in the States here, television, every other commercial is a drug commercial,
Mm,
but they don't ever tell you what the drug I've seen drug commercials, I'm like, what is the drug? Like, what does it do? You can't pronounce the names. Concentric. Well, what does it do? And you got to try to figure out by
mm.
what's going on there. So, um no, walking's been a cure-all for to me for that. Great anxiety reliever. People I've talked to who have anxiety say, I just need to get out. I just need to get out and move my body. Um, so, um, it's interesting you talk about you were on your way and you had to walk so much and how wonderful it was. Did you keep that up when you got back from your trip to Korea? And I find it fascinating. So many people that have told me similar circumstances. I was on vacation. We walked everywhere. I felt amazing. Are you still walking?
Mm,
And I, I guess maybe because it's weird. It's something that is it's free. It's something we've done our whole lives that you don't think that, well, this is the thing that is going to keep me healthy.
mm,
I need a gym membership. A gym membership, they tell me, is going to keep me healthy. You know, no, it's just something as simple as walking and planning for it and prepping. What I liked when during my the virtual run is or walk is I did plan out those days like I had talked about. I looked at different routes. I found that fascinating, the different places that I walked through
mm,
and the anticipation of getting there and doing it. And it's what kept me going. Hey, I want to go back to that neighborhood. That was such I had a great experience there.
mm,
So it's those little motivation pieces that get us to do something. And
mm,
you know, you experience it. It's so good for you.
mm.
You just need to find that what's that thing that's going to keep me doing this.
You got to find it. It's with Korea, and I was just thinking about your virtual walk, and a lot of us operate virtually today. When I was in real estate when I was 19, I would have to walk the streets, knock on doors, ring on bells, and I
Mm,
had to knock or ring 500 times a week, and I was always outside. But today, working virtually, my
mm,
clients say, Daniel, we don't want you to come to the office. We
mm,
don't want to see you in the office. Just meet us online because if we finish a meeting at 11:59, we can join you at 12. You don't have to travel here. We don't have to travel there.
mm,
And so, virtually, I believe that our life has become more sedentary.
mm. Oh, I
So,
believe it.
being in Korea, there was no appointments. There was no need for me to be in front of my computer. And also, I don't have a car in Korea. I'm there as a tourist.
Mm,
So, I'm using the metro. I'm walking around the streets. I'm walking down the river. And it really forced me to do it.
mm,
We're coming back to here. And the question was, have you kept it up? No,
mm,
because now my kids want to be driven to school. Now I get a couple of rain days and it's torrential rain. So
mm,
it's like, yeah, maybe 50 years ago I would have had to walk in the rain, like your friend who's
yeah.
walking 4 miles to his business and back.
Yes.
We would have had to do that
Mm,
out of necessity. But now it's like, okay, we will drive. And even since my daughter started high school, and this will make me sound so lazy, her school is 150 meters away from my son's school. But walking at the both of them to school, sometimes it's easier to take the car
mm,
because I can drop them at the same spot rather than have to go to two different
mm,
directions
yeah.
and cross the traffic.
Yeah.
Sounds lazy, but it's just the way it is. And
Yeah.
then in our summertime here, it gets up to about 35 to 40 degrees, and walking the kids home from school in that belting sun. As an Aussie, I would have had to walk home in that sun.
Mm,
But as Taiwanese, my wife's like, you can't let them walk in the sun. And it's a different sun here because we're close to the equator and the humidity here is so high.
mm.
Here, it could be 65 to 70% humidity today in winter.
Wow.
But when I went to Korea, it was 2 to 3 degrees, but 1% dew point.
Mm,
So your blood boils here. The
mm.
water in the body boils.
Wow.
So it's like, okay, well, it's better off to take the car.
Right.
But last night I went to the gym. I had a podcast. I went to the gym for 90 minutes, came back, did my podcast. I've got a golden retriever, which is the best thing ever because it forces you to
Okay.
walk.
Yes.
So at 9:15, I'm out with an hour walk for him, me and
Nice.
him. And that's nice. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
probably hit my 10,000 steps because I went and got a coffee during the day, and that's a kilometer to the coffee shop
Oh, there you
and a
go.
kilometer
Yes.
back. So
Beautiful.
the reward to get there was a latte,
Uh-huh.
and the reward when I got home was a customer.
Yes. Very
So,
nice.
in my own way, I'm finding balance. But if we could have those blocks of time
Yeah.
where you can walk 10 to 15 kilometers a day,
Yeah.
that was
Oh,
brilliant
that's
for
nice.
mind,
But
body, soul.
it's interesting what you just said to going for your latte. That all counts, those walks. those all count towards your, you want to say step count, but towards your fitness. And that one probably I would say counts more because there's this little reward at the end of it.
Yeah.
I love walking, and I love walking to. I will stop at a coffee shop. I'll make it my I call it my midpoint turnaround,
Mm.
and I carry with me a pen, paper, and my reading glasses. And at these stops at coffee shop, I pull out that paper, date it, where I am, and whatever I was thinking about on that walk just comes out on that paper. It's like I'm a brain dump, and I love doing that. That's one of the reasons that keeps me out walking. There you go. Wow,
Mm.
that's a nice number.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Very nice.
that was yesterday,
Yeah.
8,691 steps. So that's 6.8 kilometers. So
Yeah.
it was still pretty good. Half of what I was doing in Korea,
Mm, wow.
but still
That's yeah.
in comparison to the population, it's pretty high.
Very nice.
7,000 the day before, and then on Sunday I still got 10.3 kilometers and 13,800 steps.
Wow. Okay. Very
Yeah,
nice.
if I went back to Korea, I'd be very proud of myself.
Well, very my step count was low today. We had snow. So I don't know if do you I don't think you get snow in Taiwan, do you? So
We get a little bit, but
okay.
right on top of the mountain.
Oh, okay, yeah, so no, a storm blew in and, then it was mixed with the rain, but had it not rained, there probably would have been about 4 inches of snow, so I do yoga in the morning, and then, usually I take a walk, and my girlfriend and I take a walk in the afternoon, and today we forego that. I shoveled the driveway, so I got an upper body workout today.
That'll burn some calories.
Yes.
Frank, thank you so much for joining us. Where can we learn more about what you do, and where can we
Sure.
find your books?
Okay, so I'm Frank Ring. My website is walkingforhealthandfitness.com. I have books, I have walking programs, YouTube videos, everything is there. And then more recently, and like I talked about, I'm transitioning towards helping men through the prostate cancer journey. You could reach me at Frank at Walking for Health and Fitness. If you are faced with the diagnosis or you know someone who is, reach out to me through email. We'll hook up, and I'll give you a start point or something to focus on during this journey. Luckily, and as I always say, I got cancer, but I got the good one in the sense that it's prostate cancer is the cure rates when you catch it early are so high, but it's the journey through the treatment that's even more I found more difficult than actually having the cancer. So that's what I want to help alleviate in anyone who has prostate cancer in their life. So it's Frank at walkingforhealthandfitness.com.
Frank, thanks for joining us. Thank you so
Daniel,
much.